Good day. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. As I promised, we are going to start a new series, and the title is The Productivity Paradigm. The Productivity Paradigm. We'll be spending several weeks on it because it's a topic so important, especially for us in our part of the world. If we are going to see massive changes in the material well-being of individuals, of companies, and ultimately in our nation. So we are starting a new series today, and the title is The Productivity Paradigm. I am your host, Emeritus Professor Stephen Adei, and I hope I'll be able to go relatively slowly with this because I want us to get the concept and its implication right. We will be looking at what is the productivity paradigm. What are some of the alternative mindsets that actually fight against the productivity paradigm in our part of the world? For Christians, I'll be looking at, is this a new concept or is something which is rooted in the scripture? So please be with me. And if I go slowly, sometimes it is quite deliberate because it's a concept which is not difficult to understand, but not easy to embrace. What do I mean by the productivity paradigm? The productivity paradigm refers to a mindset, first and foremost, or a framework that says the material well-being and prosperity of individuals, companies, and nation is the result of high-quality production of goods and services, emphasizing efficiency as opposed to waste, and maximizing output in all aspects of life. Let me take it up again. It's a mindset, a way of thinking and acting, which puts emphasis on the fact that material well-being is not something by chance, just something you fast and pray about it. Not that fasting and praying is not important. We will come to that later on. But it's a mindset which says that if individuals, if nations, if companies want to improve the material welfare of its subjects, it will come by hard work, dedication, tenacity directed at producing high quality goods and services. In other words, efficient production of goods as opposed to waste, as opposed to looking other means or other ways of having shortcuts to well-being. It has to do with maximizing output from every input in all aspects of life, be it work, personal projects, companies' production, daily activities, and in some, national output. The emphasis here is not on chance, but on careful acquisition of knowledge and skills, and emphasizing their use through creativity, critical thinking, thinking out of the box, innovation, entrepreneurship, And once you get some output, not consuming them all, but saving, investing, and expanding the production base based on articulated vision and strategies to enhance implementation of one's plan of action. This means, when you say this in other jurisdictions, it's almost easily understood. I stayed in the United States for 6.5 years working with the United Nations, not as a national representative, as a technical employee of the United Nations Development Program. And one thing which was quite clear is the production, what we call the American dream. In other words, even when you meet a poor American, he has a dream that he's going to make it. He will work hard, make it, marry, have a family, get a SUV or a good car, get their own apartment, and if they make it better, a suburban area, and becoming a millionaire, as somebody has written next door, is almost taken for granted, because from the day one that they work, they are saving and investing towards their retirement. Oh, when I come home, people are thinking of a very elaborate funerals. People who have died out of poverty have about 50 to 100,000 being used for their funerals. Let me give a personal family case. I lost a half-sister, not my mother's child, but we share the same father, who in his last days, oftentimes I will go home and his electricity is cut. Why? Because the children will not provide and pay for the bill. As his brother, half-brother, as I could, I would take care of the hospital bills, I would take care of the electricity. But unfortunately, though not young, at the age of about 80, he passed away. To my surprise, the very children who would not provide 1,000 cedis for blood transfusion came up with a bill, a funeral bill of 45,000 cedis. I said, there's something wrong. And of course, they went and borrowed a big money from the rural bank, hoping that at the end of it, there will be donations. And in fact, they got donations to cover it and got a surplus of 2,000 cedis. But what a shame. The conviviality, in other words, everything becomes a celebration. At the death, that's where they have their best meals and the rest. This type of mindset we'll be talking about is contrary to the productivity paradigm. When we are talking about the productivity paradigm, we will be looking at efficiency. In other words, for every input, you expect better results and output from time to time. Being effective in what you are doing, that is what matters, and not quality output. Managing your time efficiently, getting the Bible to say, making the most out of each day. In other places, when they go to work for 8 hours, it means they work for 8 hours. They don't stay at the workplace for 8 hours, but they work for 8 hours. We are talking about goal orientation, being engaged in continuous improvement. In my part, where I come from, when people go to school and they finish JHS, he says, what are you doing? Oh, my school. I have finished school, literally. and the rest of their lives, there's no attempt to improve their lot. Of course, they will have excuse. Oh, we didn't have money, even on the free SHS. But the mindset is what we are talking about here. The Japanese have the concept of kaizen, that is continuous improvement. So that there's now, my son is a fan of vehicles and tells me about the new Toyota models, about 3 of them having the same platform and this and that, and they are always working at improving it. And of course, we are, if anything at all, we are specialists in consuming what others produce, and to do so above our means. What do I say above our means? Whenever we have a balance of payment deficit, it means we are importing more than we are exporting. In building the productivity paradigm, it's accountability, not necessarily to an external agency, but for oneself. For example, how many on New Year's Day sat down and said that, look, assessed, this is what I achieved last year, and this year I'm going to be 25% better. That is the productivity paradigm. So the next few weeks, we are looking at changing our mindset. But in order to do so, there is some negative mindsets which we have to deal with. And I will just mention, because when you talk about the opposites of the productivity paradigm, it becomes much more understood and easily appreciated. So what are the things that are the antinomies or the opposites of the productivity paradigm? We will look at most of them in details. We are going to do it over the weeks. But let me mention a few obvious ones, which every Ghanaian adult, I hope, will understand. Patrimony, whom you know. It's amazing. You know, the University of Science and Technology has published all the cut-off for every subject. Of course, the other university, Legon, has also done so. So that engineering, if you want to do mechanical engineering, they have published that they have taken everybody who has gotten, say, aggregate 8. If you go to medicine, of course, they are having maybe only 150 students being admitted to the medical school. And therefore, the cutoff may be aggregate 6. In other words, you must get straight 1s, and that one also, you must get your maybe biology, physics, chemistry, and included in your electives. I haven't checked, that's why I'm saying maybe, but I know that this has been the trend over the years. And yet I got a WhatsApp from a group of students from a school, which for now I wouldn't like to mention, who know me. And they said that, we got good grades, and therefore, will you go and see Tech whether we can get admission? And I says, what a mentality, patrimonious mentality, saying that if they know Professor Stephen Adei, then he can help them to get admission when the list and the cutoff has been published. It's a matter of you are knowing that this is the cutoff, say for engineering 8, and I got 7, and yet I was not taken. That I would like to follow you. When people have this mentality, they are not likely to do their best, because they should have been working. If they wanted to do engineering and the cutoff is 7, to get 7, and if you get 8, you are out. But of course, thank God, there are other universities which I think produce equally good engineers, But because the premier universities normally have the first choice, you go to the second level. Again, there are so many people in Ghana who think that the way to make it in life is through corruption. I mean, I was shocked when I became the GRA chairman. A GRA chairman board, you are entitled to only your sitting allowance. GRA doesn't even have board fees, so that every month you get a fee. And that is all you are entitled to. But MPP people were attacking me. He was not with us, and he has joined the gravy train. And I says, what gravy train? Because the board fee of GRA is not something to write home about. It is less than 1/10 of my monthly net income. And yet, people, because they are saying basically that if you are GRA chairman, you have access to corrupt money, to get confiscated cars and for free and sell it and other things. But a confiscated car in most cases is outright stealing of people's vehicle, which they will have spent tens and thousands of CDs on, and is auctioned for about 5,000 or 20,000, and they are not allowed to bid for it. And yet all the politicians, it was under NDC, it was under MPP. In other words, if the mindset of a people is that to make it, you have to be corrupt, then they are not likely to work hard. Productivity mindset is thrown out of the window. We have also a major enemy to the productivity paradigm has to do with what we call connection. Basically, you must in Ghana now, the big thing is that if you are connected to NDC, then your cocoa season has arrived. And now it's for, if you are in ND, not MPP, if you are NPP, then it means that your harvest is ended. That is why we could see people, NDC, which has won massively, and instead of jubilating and seeing how they will build, the money of their supporters go about looting, because to them is the time to enrich themselves and wanting to kick people out of their offices. Even in my village, there is a business center which had just been built. I hear that, there's a village nearby, a town nearby called Anyuaso, and one of the MPP person, the person who was made to just keep the place, that people from his hometown in their numbers went down there. Thank God he was able to escape. They would have killed him. Why? Because their party has won. Because that is the type of mindset which is pulling us down. And to say that other people did it is absolutely rubbish. It is a mindset we need to change. Ethnocentricity. Again, the entitlement mentality. People feel they are entitled. Even when you relatively make it and you go to your family and visit, the family members believe that they are entitled to the share of what you have made. In fact, one of the shocks in my life, when I reached 60, only a few years ago, that is 16 years ago, just before then I was talking to my family members, I'm about to go on retirement. One of my nieces, an illiterate, I couldn't believe it, knew that when you go on retirement, you can get a lump sum. And he said, Wafa, kokoji lump sum bra ni ncheni. To wit, uncle, go and get your lump sum pension so that we will share it among ourselves. On what basis? Because she's a niece, she feels he's entitled to a share of your pension. And that is entitlement mentality. Reliance, that's what makes her think that the way forward is relying on foreign aid and loans. And that's where we are. That has brought us thus far. Borrowing beyond even our capacity to pay, so that we are now slaves in the land of our birth. Others determine how much you can give to people who have bought bonds and the rest. Because the mentality is this: we can rise up holding our shoestrings. You can't. Instead of productivity. Please, these are the type of things that I would like us to be looking at, both the positive and the negative, over the next few weeks. So let me summarize. The productivity paradigm. By productivity paradigm, I'm talking about a mindset which says that material well-being does not come by chance or by connection or through corruption. In corruption, others benefit, but at the expense of the majority. It is impoverishing others so that a few who have access to loot government resources become better off. And oftentimes they don't use it even for the national well-being of investing locally, because they don't want their stolen loot to be seen. No, that where our well-being will come as an individual, as companies, as a nation, through prosperity deriving from productivity. And if we don't produce, we will talk about that along the way. The trade union can shout and dance, the average worker will be poor. We have to look at increasing the national cake. Of course, the second paradigm is equity in distributing it, but we would start with productivity. I'm trusting that as we go through this, whether we are individuals or companies or as a nation, we will have a growth mindset. We would now start thinking creatively, out of the box, putting on our critical thinking caps, being innovative, entrepreneurial, willing to produce, save, and invest, and making the most, so that we can say the land of our birth is going to be a land of prosperity. The Lord be with you till we meet again, as we continue the details and the technicalities of the productivity paradigm. It is Emeritus Professor Stephen Adei once more saying goodbye, and we'll meet again, God willing, next week. Be ready to change your mind and join those who prosper through the prosperity paradigm, productivity paradigm. Meet me on ZFM 101.9 every Saturday at 8 a.m. If you miss it, don't miss YouTube. Shalom.